I'd like to call to order the May 28th meeting of the Columbia Heights School Board, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we do the roll call, please?
Yes. Mueller,
Here.
Palmer,
Here.
Adair,
Here.
Granlund,
Here.
Poole,
Here.
Petway, here. Superintendent Stenbeck.
Here. Thank you. Our mission statement is creating worlds of opportunity for each and every learner. All belong, all succeed. Our core values are community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. To start our meeting tonight, we have a Highlander highlight, so very exciting. I believe Jake Henderson is going to present our Athena and Oscar Eng Award winners.
Great timing, Ryan. You want to sit there? True. Brian, you want to sit there? Chair Mueller, members of the board, Superintendent Stenbeck, thank you all for having us. Perfect timing here as we just got started. But I thought you were going to give a little bit more information about the Oscar Eng and the Athena Award, but I can give a little bit just as a, so that everybody knows. The Oscar Eng Award is an award that was, he was one of our first athletic directors. And so it's kind of similar to the Athena Award that Truk has won. And we have one of our top athletes as well as someone that is a leader and does amazing in the classroom as well. So Ryan Agudo Medina is our Oscar Eng Award winner. He's been a member, excuse me, of our soccer team, I think since freshman year, right? Yeah. Did you go to our schools all throughout K-12 too? Yeah. Okay. He's a leader on the soccer field and in our school. At our section final game, in the pouring rain, I think I was sitting in one of these chairs, actually. Oh, that's right. I came out, and at halftime, Ryan was giving a fiery, awesome speech. His teammates were locked in on every word. It was awesome, and it's something that will always stick with me. So thank you for that memory. You're a great example to your team and your school. Ryan has actually won All-State, or he's on the All-State team, and he will continue to play in college at the University of Northwestern. So congratulations, Ryan. Truk over here is also being awarded tonight. She is our Athena Award winner, and that's a Minneapolis, and actually kind of a Ring Cities award to our top female athlete of our school. So all female athletes from kind of first ring suburbs, Minneapolis, St. Paul, are awarded for that, one per school. So Truk is a fantastic leader on our teams and in our school as well. I believe you've been captain multiple times on the tennis and the lacrosse team. And she has facilitated just a really unique and fun team culture on both of those teams, which is really cool. I often see her leading practices on the lacrosse field, and I'm pretty sure she's probably destined to be a head coach here someday. Maybe not here, but somewhere. She's accomplished on the field, on the court, and definitely in the classroom. She is going to attend Tufts University, right? Yeah. Okay. Oh, nice. I didn't even look at the shirt. And tomorrow, she'll play in the first round of sections at Roseville for lacrosse. So congratulations again to you, Truk.
I do have something here, which, this was probably what you were expecting me to read before you sat down.
It's okay. No.
So as Jake had introduced, our award winners, our Athena Award recipient, Truk Mai, has been involved in tennis, lacrosse, student council, the pep band, and National Honor Society. I don't think it's in here, but you also visited us when you made the nationals for History Day as well. So a little ad-libbing there. So also in the Leadership Enterprise for a Diverse America Cohort 19 Scholar, volunteers for SECA Food Shelf and Thrift Store was the technology intern for Columbia Heights High School. In lacrosse, she is a 3-year captain, 3-time varsity letter winner, received the MVP for midfield and MVP defense for her team, and has received 2 Tri-Metro All-Conference honorable mentions. In tennis, she was captain of her senior season, received 2-time varsity letter, and received her team's Hardest Worker Award. And after graduating, she plans on majoring in computer science. And Ryan, our Oscar Eng recipient, has been involved in soccer. He's received varsity letter all 4 years, is captain of the soccer team, and has been named Tri-Metro All-Conference twice, and has also been named All-State Soccer this year. He will be continuing at University of Northwestern, as Jake said, and you're also involved in National Honor Society, takes college classes at Anoka Ramsey, and maintaining a 3.8 GPA. So, congratulations to both of you, not just in your sports, which you're obviously highly successful, but academically and within your communities. So I hope you and your families are proud, but these are excellence awards and great honor, and you're wonderful recipients. Anything from the board would like to share? Well, here's the next fun part of this is that I have certificates for you. So we're gonna have you come up one at a time. We're gonna do a pose in front of our certificate handing out spot. The board is gonna line up and have you shake their hands, and then you can also hit the directors over here. Don't hit them, but shake their hands. And we'll do pictures. So I'll call you one at a time. First, we will do our Oscar Eng Award, Ryan Aguno Medina. And our Athena Award winner, Troop Mai. I didn't get a chance. Truk and Ryan, did either of you want to say anything? Yes. Kind of walking away. I forgot that part. Well,
I was going to say thank you guys for, thank you.
well, congratulations again. Thank you
Yes.
both.
Yes.
And as you're doing, you are free to go, although you're more than welcome to stay for the riveting next couple of hours of a fantastic board meeting. So, thank you both. Next, we will move on to our agenda approval adjustments and announcements. Can I get a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Let's all jump on
I'm
that.
gonna say Laura on that one. It was the loudest one I heard. And is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mary. So, all right.
Beat you off.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Next, we have our announcements. On June 6th, Thursday, is the last day of school and graduation. And for those who are here in the room and watching maybe the live stream, graduation is at 7 p.m. It is a very highly trafficked time near the high school and the football field. So for those in the community, if you don't have a reason to be on 49th, I would avoid 49th in this general area near the high school and the football field. As we celebrate graduation, there'll be a lot of extra traffic. June 11th, Tuesday at 5 p.m. is a subcommittee on community engagement in the training room. June 11th, Tuesday at 5 p.m. is a subcommittee on policy in the community room. June 11th, Tuesday, 6 p.m. is the regular school board meeting in the community room. June 18th, Tuesday at 5:30 is the school board work session, which we will have at North Park. And June 19th, which is a Wednesday, the district is closed for Juneteenth. Next, we have communication to the board. At this time, any citizen or employee may briefly address the school board, and the board will listen to brief remarks, ask clarifying questions, and if desired, request that the administration follow up. The board will not take action at this meeting on requests presented at this time, and time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Do we have anybody who wishes to address the board? All right. Next, moving on then, we have our consent agenda. On our consent agenda, we have the personnel report from May 28th, the Northeast Metro 916 agreement for service, the overnight and out-of-state field trips, and the meeting minutes from the May 14th regular meeting and May 21st work session. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Julie, and a second?
Second.
Second by Michelle. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have our acknowledgement of contributions. This is a resolution. I will read this. Acknowledgement of contributions resolution, Minnesota Statute 123B.02 permits school boards to receive for the benefit of the district bequests, donations, or gifts for any proper purpose and apply the same to the purpose designated. On that behalf, the board may act as trustee of any trust created for the benefit of the district and for the benefit of the pupils thereof. Therefore, the School Board of Columbia Heights Public Schools Independent School District Number 13 resolves to accept with appreciation the contributions detailed in the background for $20,896. The detailed background includes monetary. Columbia Heights Library Foundation donated $20,000 to the Columbia Heights Public Schools to support district-wide literacy. And value in kind, a case of apples was donated to Highland staff from the Falden American Legion Post 555 with an estimated value of $100. 30 kites were donated to the Highland Band for students by Ryan Ryder with an estimated value of $98. Con B flat trumpet was donated to the Highland Band for student need by Phil Doherty, estimated value of $250. And Leslie Shirk donated Nancy Drew books to Columbia Academy Media Center with an estimated value of $448. Total fiscal year 2023-2024 monetary contributions to date, $136,745.90. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Mary, and a second.
Second.
Second by Jessica. Any discussion? All right. Thank you to our generous donors, both for monetary donations and for the donation of materials. Since this is a roll call vote, we will do since it's a resolution, we'll do a roll call vote. Michelle, you call the roll, please.
Granlund,
Aye.
Poole,
Aye.
Medeiros,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Palmer,
Aye.
Petway, aye.
Thank you. Resolution passes. Next, we have our discussion reports and information items. We'll start with reports from members of the board, and tonight we will start with Julie.
I participated last week in our work session, and it's been a busy week otherwise personally, so my report is short.
Thanks, Julie. Jessica.
Sure, there's a lot continuing to go on in the district as we wrap up the end of the year. So I had the opportunity to attend one of the nights of the Expressions Art Show. And it was wonderful to see all of the art by our talented students. I was there on the secondary night, so I got to hear our marimba band, as well as some other ensembles play, and that was really fantastic. I was able to also attend the Early Childhood Advisory Council's Spring in the Garden event that they hosted, and that was really well organized. I know it was a lot to put together. They had activities for all of the families. They had a silent auction. And so my congratulations to the volunteers on that council for all of the work putting together a successful event. MSBA recently held a webinar on the details or what the details that have been released so far on READ Act 2.0. My understanding is that's now posted and available for folks to rewatch, so I would definitely recommend that to other members. It was a lot of really good information. We've had track and field days at all of our elementary schools in the last few weeks, so I had the opportunity to attend one of those and see our elementary schoolers really work together on a lot of different fun events. I did not get caught in the kindergarten, the all kindergarten run, as I did in a previous year where my life flashed before my eyes. So I was happy to be part of that. I was able to attend the work session last week, and we had a lot of really good discussion on several agenda items that we'll talk about tonight. The Highland held their annual family picnic last week, and that was a really fun event. A lot of families turned out for that. I was happy to talk with families and teachers at that, as well as I attended the Columbia Academy Band Concert the same evening as the picnic, right across the parking lot. So I had the opportunity to see some of our musicians play in that as well. So thank you.
Laura? I attended the work session.
Thank you. Michelle?
I also attended one of the Expressions concerts. It was the second day, and it was for the primary. So I got to see my little one in the honors choir, and that was fun. I mean, she didn't look at me one time, but, but it was nice to see her. But the art was amazing. Her art was also chosen. She was very excited to show us her art. And yeah, we just have some talented students. It was just a great night. I also attended her track and field day, which in 4th grade gets to be here at the high school. So that was a very big deal, getting to be here and run the whole track and the relay and just hear all the different elementary schools cheer as loud as they could for their schools. And it was just a good time. I also attended last week's work session, and we actually had a BIPOC family advisory meeting from North Park, actually at Ramsdale Park, which is across the street from the barbecue and the concert. So everything kind of happened on the same day last week, so I couldn't make it to everything, but I heard that those events were great. And I think that's all I have. Thanks.
Mary?
Okay, it has been a very busy few weeks. I missed the first meeting of the month, so I will have a bit more than usual to also report. So I was able to attend the SRO meeting that we had here at the District Center, and I attended that with Chair Mueller, Superintendent Stenvik, Mayor Amada Marquez-Simula, the new police chief, Chief Markham. There was, and also Councilmember James, and I'm gonna blank on the other people that were there, because there was a lot of people there, and I didn't write it all down. So that was wonderful. We had a lot of really robust, good discussion. I attended chair meetings last week, and then right before this meeting, the work session last week as well. Lots of phone calls from families and attending grad parties, which gets wilder and wilder as my kids get older, but wonderful to see and celebrate with our families and students. I also attended the Expressions Art Show community night at the newly opened Railworks, which was really exciting, and got to speak with former chair Natty was there, and that was pretty great, as was Missy Lee, another former school board member. I attended Pets in the Park and got to talk with Mr. Lewis, which was pretty fantastic as well. And while he was trying to get me to pet a snake, which is, it was not a thing I was expecting, but here we are. And then a lot of connecting with our other elected officials, council members James and Spriggs, Mayor Marquez-Simula, phone calls with Superintendent Stenvik, Chair Mueller, Directors Petway, Medeiros, and then also had some meetings with Representative Omar. So, and I think, if I left anything out, I think we're good. Thank you.
Yep. As Vice Chair Granlund said, we had the SRO meeting, and this was a small group meeting to discuss the SRO contract, kind of what's working in our approach that we took this year due to the SRO not being provided, and really saying what's best for the district, what's best for our students and our staff, and keeping in mind a excellent working relationship with the Columbia Heights Police Department, but trying to figure out what the next version of that looks like. So that will eventually come back to the board as the working group is working through of what that looks like. So I think it was a very, very good meeting, lots of really good, deep, robust conversations. Director Hennekins and Executive Director Niembwe were also in attendance. And so we'll keep reporting back as we move through that process. Also attended the chair meeting last week as well as the work session. I had the opportunity to attend the high school band concert, and I think I did my math after 13 years. That was my last kid in the high school band concert. So I'm at these like bittersweets, the last of the last, as we prepare for graduation next week. But it was a great concert and a recognition of the seniors and some of their awards, and it was fun to hear them grow from previous concert to this last one. Also had the opportunity to attend day 2 of the state synchronized swimming meet that was held down at the University of Minnesota. It was so fun to cheer our swimmers on. I believe we had 7 swimmers competing at the state meet. And they were mostly our JV team, and it was just really fun to see. They did not place at the meet, but I have high hopes for how competitive they're going to be moving forward. And excited, and I don't want to steal Jake's thunder on this at some point, but our synchronized swimming coach, Camille, was recognized as Coach of the Year for the state. So really exciting to see how she's continued to build that program and have them be competitive, as they we had swimmers at state at least the last 4 years in a row. So really exciting to see that. That was a lot of fun. I did miss the Expressions art show, which is one of my favorites, but I was helping our swimmers gel their hair. So that kind of,
Which is a very in-depth process.
It's a very in-depth process. Let's see. Also had conversations with Member Petway and Member Granlin, Superintendent Stenvik, and I think I mentioned the chair meetings, and also I had the opportunity today to do one of my favorite things as chair, which was signing all the diplomas. So those are all hand signed. They are not copied. They are not printed. We are not using stamps. Nope. So, and high five, because we didn't mess up any this year. So we did a great job. Got those all signed, and that was pretty exciting to see, and I may have gotten a little emotional signing my kids' diplomas. So. That's it for me. Superintendent Stenvik.
Thank you. Similarly to members of the board, I was able to attend 2 days of track and field. I got to see tug of war, and also the kindergarten was at Highland, which was amazing. I also attended the Expressions art show. I like to go before it opens, and then I can talk with some of the teachers and hear more about the pieces in depth, so that was really fun. And thanks to the Columbia Heights Boosters who were there with the hot dog wagon, always present in the community, helping out. As you heard earlier in the meeting, the Columbia Heights Library Foundation donated $20,000. So a representative from the foundation came and presented Director Tuckrell and I with a $20,000 check, and we decided we need to buy one of those large checks that we can write on and wipe off, so for photo ops. But really, really appreciative of I think this is the 3rd year that we've received a grant from the Library Foundation, and just what an amazing support from the community. The materials that are being purchased from this grant will directly support English language learners this summer and beyond, but particularly Director Tuckrell's speedily purchasing the materials in time for this summer. So very grateful for the support of the community. And then preparing for the end of the school year. So lots of events still to come. 10th annual powwow is this Friday evening, rain or shine. So if it rains, it'll be in the big main gym. If it's sunny, it will be out in the stadium. Of course, commencement next week as well. So just an all-around exciting time of year. And then since our last board meeting, I've had communication with Chair Mueller, Vice Chair Granlin, and Member Petway. Thank you.
right, next we'll move on to AmeriCorps, and we have Director Tuckrell, I believe, and Principal Coleman presenting to us. And guest.
Good evening, Chair Mueller, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvick. I'm here tonight with a crew, some online and some in person. I'm here with Eric from AMPACT, and he has a crew online, which includes Sandy, Stephanie, and Emma. And I'm here with Principal Kuhlman from Valley View Elementary to share about the impact of our collaboration or our partnership with AMPACT, and a thank you to them as well as we move forward. Our mission in Columbia Heights Public Schools of creating worlds of opportunity for each and every learner, all belong, all succeed. And as we think about the partnership and the collaboration we have with AMPACT, it really encompasses all of our core values. They support with literacy and math, but they're supporting with the social, emotional, and the relationships as well with our students. And our core values in Columbia Heights are aligned to the school board education equity statement. We're here tonight as an informational presentation. There'll be no governance question to follow. And with that, I'm excited to introduce Eric, who will share the next few slides with his team.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for having me. You can go to the next slide. We are AMPACT, and AMPACT leverages the power of AmeriCorps. We use AmeriCorps members who are typically members of the community to
You can keep going.
Okay. To fill needs in our communities. And AMPACT has several education programmings that are designed to fill needs and gaps. And so we recruit, train, and support and pay our tutors, and they serve in several different options of service packages. They could serve 18 hours a week, 25 hours a week, 35 hours a week, and their whole purpose is to provide that high dosage tutoring during the school day to students who are typically maybe a little bit behind grade level, and give them that either one-on-one or small group support to get them to where they need to be. And I'll talk just really briefly about the three programs that we have and that we've partnered with Columbia Heights on: our Reading Corps program, our Math Corps program, and our Early Learning Corps program. Reading Corps works with students from kindergarten to third grade, and is a program that empowers these kids to build their reading skills and become better learners. Students who receive Reading Corps tutoring demonstrated growth in phonics, reading fluency, and oral reading fluency scores that were equivalent to an extra 50 to 90% of a year of schooling. Reading Corps is currently serving, or has served in the past, over 300,000 students. Lots of those are Minnesotans, but we are always expanding into new states. And so Math Corps is the second program I'm going to talk about briefly. And after I get done talking about these programs, one of my colleagues, Stephanie, is going to give us some actual data for your Columbia Heights kids and tell you how it's going on the ground. So for Math Corps is a program that either serves K through 3 or 4 through 8. We have two different versions of Math Corps. And Math Corps is a tutoring program that helps create strong students and stronger futures by getting students ready for algebra. And for Math Corps, we recently did a randomized controlled trial, and 4th through 8th grade students receiving Math Corps tutoring for 90 minutes a week were 2 to 3 months ahead of their expected trajectory. And Math Corps has served over 55,000 students across the country, many of those in Minnesota. And then third is Early Learning Corps. And Early Learning Corps serves our youngest learners in preschool age. And so Early Learning Corps equips kids with the skills needed to be ready for kindergarten. And Early Learning Corps preschoolers who received our Early Learning Corps tutoring have substantially outperformed their peers in all 5 literacy outcomes assessed: letter sounds, letter names, rhyming, alliteration, and picture names. You can go to the next slide. Is really honored to be here because we're actually this year celebrating 10 years of partnership with Columbia Heights. We originally started back in the 13-14 school year at Valley View and at Highland. Valley View has been a partner ever since, I believe, and has all of our programming going into next year, that our education programming. Principal Kuhlman has been an amazing partner, and oftentimes my staff are very appreciative of how much he really helps this program be integrated into his school. And so we have served since over the course of those 10 years, we've served about a little over 400 students. The next slide. Currently, we have 4 tutors that have served 95 students this school year. 2 reading corps tutors, 1 math corps tutor, and 1 early learning corps tutor. And then that slide before, in case you didn't see that, the current programming looks a lot different than the future programming. So we're expanding here in Columbia Heights, and we're really grateful for that partnership. So we'll be bringing on 2 new schools with Highland and Columbia Academy, and then expanding our programming at Valley View and North Park as well. And so over the course of those 10 years, our tutors have dedicated about a little over 26,000 hours of service to the Columbia Heights children. And this is an investment add to your schools of about $785,000 over the past 10 years. And we come to that figure by using a source called Independent Sector, which values a volunteer hour based on the type of volunteering they're doing, right? And so that's about $29 an hour. And so I just wanted to put that out there because we met with Tara and Superintendent Stenvik a few months ago and had some great data to show them. So let's get on to the data because we have some folks that are going to share what's going on right now with your students.
Thank you, Eric. So in just a moment, we'll actually show you the student impact data from this year. But before I get to that, this slide just shows, I think, one of the things that makes the programming so amazing. And that is that internal coaches, so folks from within the district, as well as our staff, our coaching specialists, who you'll hear from in a moment, come in to observe tutors once or even twice a month. They use a fidelity checklist, and they're looking for things like the tutor is communicating expectations, following the intervention scripts, or providing error corrections. And also making connections with students and providing positive feedback. And what you can see across the 3 programs is that the tutors that are working in your schools have really incredibly high fidelity. And that's part of what leads to such great student growth. If you go to the next slide, this just shows you a little bit about the growth that has happened this year for students in K-3 reading. So we're really looking for students to make more than a year's worth of growth because we want all of our students to close their individual skill gaps. Right now, as of this moment, 83% of students are above their target growth, and 1 student has actually exited the program. So that is very exciting for us to see that the work that tutors are doing with students is really impacting their learning. And now I'll hand it over to Emma to talk about math growth.
Thanks, Stephanie. I am the math coaching specialist, so I work with Valley View Elementary School. And the math tutor there has completed just around 410 units with his students, and he has about 20 students, so that equates to about getting through about 20 units per student. So that's almost our entire curriculum, which is awesome. And students have to pass a stop and check at the end of the unit and get 85% or higher on that stop and check to move on to the next unit. And then some other exciting news is that 100% of the students benchmarked improved on their scores from fall to spring. And one student has exited our program. I believe I'm kicking it off to Sandy.
Yes. Thank you, Emma. For Early Learning Core, we give 2 different assessments, and it sounds kind of strange for preschoolers to be getting assessments, but they're usually very quick and they're very child friendly. The first one is the Early Math Inventory, and that is something that targets skills like counting, one-to-one correspondence, number after knowledge, and we assess 3 times a year. And students that were on, above, or close to target increased from 32% in the fall, so that's what they came in with, and then they're over 76% meeting close to or meeting target in the spring. And then for phonological awareness, we give an assessment called the PELI, and that assesses on a variety of different skills. And just to give you an example, not all of the numbers are in yet. The PELI is a pretty long assessment. I mean, it's a storybook, which is very interactive and very developmentally appropriate for students. And I am sorry, my screen has frozen, so I'm trying to get there we go. For phonological awareness, to give you an example, is one of those skills. And students that were on, above, or close to target increased from 18% in the fall to 24% in the winter. And as I said, the benchmark window just closed on Friday, so we're still trying to figure out, we're still trying to compile all the data for spring. So that's not yet available.
And that's all I have. I can leave some flyers because obviously we have some tutors to hire. So I think we need to hire about 10 more tutors. We have some hired already, but I can leave some flyers here if anybody has anybody in their networks that might be a good fit to be a tutor.
We're excited for the partnership we've had and the amazing support, as you can tell from all of them showing up here this evening. The process to become a partnership or to join together in supporting our students, there's an application process. And as mentioned earlier, we had a conversation a few months ago, and they've really taken away all the barriers to applying and getting the support from their side. So they've provided support for our coaches that are internal. They've provided support for the site fee that's required to partner with them. And the site fee is very nominal. It's very small in comparison to the number of hours that were suggested earlier. But they have a scholarship application that we've been able to give and used for many of our sites and for the different tutors. So we're thankful for that. And I'm going to pass it over to Principal Kuhlman, who can talk about the impact in this building.
So the data definitely paints one picture. We're seeing a lot of growth, especially in our earliest learners in pre-K and math. That's exciting because a lot of them are going into kindergarten at grade level. So that's awesome. What the numbers don't tell you is the personal relations that our tutors are making and having with our students. They're making connections. So Mr. Eric is our math core volunteer. You'll see Eric eating lunch, and not only with the 4th and 5th graders, but you'll see 3rd graders and you'll see 2nd graders, and the kids are glamming onto him. He gives us time to volunteer to come on field trips, and he's to the left up here. And it's just become a part of our Valley View community. So he's right in there. And you're looking at him in one of our atriums because we're getting a little tight on space, but he loves it. He's right up by the 5th grade. They're coming out, they're chatting with them. He's keeping an eye on the hall, so it's an added benefit. But kids are excited. And so what I want you to know is this is also pulled outside of our core curriculum. So they're still getting that core content. This is when it's a part 2 time or when it's small group. So they're getting pulled. So we're being very strategic as to not let these kids miss out on grade level content, but how do we support them in some work time? Miss Adria is our early learning core, and she's a natural. And it's funny because she comes in, she works in the morning, volunteers with us, and then she assists in assisting living. And she goes, it's kind of like bookends. And she laughs, but she does a wonderful job, working with our earliest learners and, like I said, the math, but the literacy also. If you look at what Early Learning Core is requiring in their assessments, is different than our content, our regular curriculum. So it's not all lining up, so we're going to have a little bit of work to do, but they're actually expecting more, and our kids are doing it. So they're making a huge impact on us, but the academics are also paying off. If you remember, Miss Nancy is a former Reading Corps volunteer. She aged out, unfortunately, for AMPACT. Good for us, because now we have her working on staff. And her data isn't. So she's doing stuff very similar. It's not the same. But she's already exited 10 students out of her program. So the people that are coming are part of our staff. They're not just volunteers coming in. They're treated like staff. They're coming to staff meetings. They're having our PD work. They're having our equity work. And they're also working with our coaches. So, I mean, it's coaches and also our reading interventionists. So we have the best and the brightest working with our tutors coming in to support our students, and it's absolutely amazing. So you are more than welcome. If you ever want to come in and see it in person, or if you want to become a volunteer, because I know there's always extra time, we'd love to have you. But I can't thank Reading Corps and AMPACT enough, because our partnership has gone, well, the 5 years since I've been there, and we're increasing each year, and it's making a significant difference. Questions?
Oh, we've got questions. Julie?
Does this include our English learner children as well, or is it just those who already know English well when they get in?
All of our students. Yep. And I think that's where some of our growing pains are in the primary or in early learnings, like pre-K, is how do we match that?
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's all our learners.
Mary?
Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm a parent of a child who in 2nd grade was not reading at grade level, and now he, thanks to interventions like this, he's in honors English at 7th grade. So that impact is incredibly, it's wonderful. It's life-changing in some ways for these kids too, because, my kid was self-selecting to go to the quiet space, to take a break because reading was hard for him. And so getting those skills and that support was really instrumental. And Mr. Kuhlman knows a lot about that one too with my kiddo. So I know how it was for my kiddo when he needed support, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you identify which kids are the ones that get targeted for these interventions?
Sure. Stephanie, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So any student who is not yet performing at grade level is eligible for participation in interventions. And so what we do then is we have the internal coach, so the representative from the school, collaborate with our coaching specialist and make decisions about which students are going to benefit the most from the program. So there's some local control as well as saying, as well as opening it up and saying that those students who just aren't quite there yet would be eligible.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Michelle?
So I know that we're expanding right into the other schools and even at Valley View now. Is it by need or principal's choice, or how are we deciding which schools or grades are getting it?
Great question. We've worked with the internal piece, so the administration and teachers. As mentioned earlier, we need an internal coach. So looking at who can bring that on and be part of an internal coach. And then from the administration, how much time in the day, how many students do you think we could pull at different times? As Principal Kuhlman mentioned, we don't pull from the tier instruction. So the tier 1 is something all of our students deserve and have. So looking at the time of the day, how many students could we serve? So that's a big piece of it, is what is our capacity? And then looking at the finances and the partnership, that's another piece to look at too. As well as theirs, as how many volunteers can we get? I'm hoping those flyers get us a few.
I have a couple more. So also, I did want to ask, what are the qualifications for volunteers? Like, do they need to be teachers? Like,
Yeah, I can answer that. So actually, we have tutors right now that are everywhere from 18 years old to 85 years old. We require a high school degree or equivalent, and we train our people. So we train them. We ensure that they have the support that they need, both during the training and then when they get to the site. It's not kind of one of those things where we just place them at your site and then we're in the background. We're there oftentimes several times a month, working with the internal coach, the staff member at the school, and the tutors. And those, so the qualifications are really anyone who wants to give back, wants to serve. We don't require anyone to have any specific experience working with kids. It's usually helpful, but don't require that.
I got one more. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to ask about communication to parents. So is there, I would imagine there's something that goes out to them, letting the parents know that their child needs this intervention. Is there also like follow-up and things like that for their growth or anything that they need help with?
Yep. So absolutely, anytime we're allowing students to work with a volunteer or just be pulled out of the classroom, we want to make sure we get permission. So they're definitely made aware of that and offered up an opportunity, because I think it is an opportunity. It's not a must-have or you're going to do, it's by your choice, because that's a partnership that we encourage. But then also there's follow-up. There's progress reports, and what we do is we include that in our progress reports too. So our tutors can give information, our internal coaches give information, so there is a feedback loop put in place.
Awesome, thank you.
Julie.
Thank you. Mr. Branson, I was wondering, when you mentioned that you guys do the training, so we're going through the science of learning or reading right now, and I want to know, are you also training your teachers in the science of reading and making sure that they coordinate with our teaching staff to do what our expectations are for teaching that?
Yeah, I think Stephanie is the expert on that, so I'll let her answer that. But basically, my answer is that yes, like Reading Corps does align with the principles of the science behind reading. Our coaching specialists are also trained in letters, and so our training is very robust for our for the AmeriCorps members. But is there anything you'd like to add, Stephanie, to that?
Eric, you've got it. Fortunately, as a program, we've been working with evidence-based literacy and from that philosophy from the beginning. So we were so excited about the READ Act to be coming into fruition this year. AMPACT and Reading Corps is actually written into the READ Act as one of a few evidence-based interventions that are supported. So there is training for our coaches, the folks supporting the tutors, and then tutors are receiving upfront training through online learning modules, as well as in-person and face-to-face training at the beginning of their service. And then when I spoke to those fidelity checks, there is this ongoing coaching that's happening each month so that the learning doesn't just stop at the beginning, but there is really job embedded learning. So as things are coming up with students, or as tutors are becoming more inquisitive about why is an intervention set up this way? Why are we delivering it in this way? How does that relate to the science? We're able to answer those questions and continue to deepen their learning and support them throughout their service period.
Thank you.
Jessica.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's really helpful to hear the details of the program and really like how it's working in our buildings. I'm really excited that we're able to expand what's working really well for to more of our students. Some of the data that was presented around growth was really impressive, and I'm just curious, you talked about the assessments that are used in early learning core. Could you talk a little bit about how you're measuring growth for our K-8 learners as part of this program?
Sure. I think that's another Stephanie question. She is my education impact manager, and she's going to answer that better than I will.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of reading, our kindergartners are assessed on letter sounds. In first grade, we have nonsense words, and then they transition over mid-year to do a CBMR. So they're increasing the skill that they're being tested on. And so that follows them through then into third grade. In math, we have a benchmark assessment that's been internally created and vetted, and that aligns to the standards as well. So they're taking that assessment 3 times a year.
Great. And then Principal Kuhlman, you talked about a little bit about sort of the intersection between like the school day and our licensed staff and how this program kind of functions in the school day. And I'm just curious to learn a little bit more then about how we align or how we intersect the work of these tutors with our licensed staff. So we mentioned, internal coaches are those licensed staff from our buildings. You're nodding yes, so there's an answer to that question. I appreciate it. And then thinking about how the work of the tutors then interacts with like the daily work of our licensed interventionists in our building. I don't know if anyone can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So we don't try to double dip. So we try to spread that wealth. And as Stephanie said, when we go through and we analyze who gets early learning core, or who gets learning core, who gets our ADSIS interventionists, we all sit in the same room. And so we're having conversations like, okay, our ADSIS interventionists are really the intense interventions. So those are the kids who are really struggling the most, and they get the most bang for their buck with that. When we talk of or like reading core, it's really about those bubble kids and who can we push and give a little bit more to get them up to where we need to be. So I mean, it's matching our strengths to the areas of need and equalizing it out that way. When we're talking internal coaching, then we're talking like before or after school, or maybe on some prep times to go down and support. But we're also getting coaching pieces coming from reading core coming in. And everything just seems to layer, and it's with intent. I mean, you're looking at schedules, you're looking at everything aligned to make sure that it's working, because not only, we only have so much time out of the day that we can pull. And I think that's the part that has to be creative in how we schedule it, especially when we're looking at tutors like math core and reading core. They're pulling from multiple grade levels. Well, you can't have them having reading all at the same time. You have to stagger it so that we can maximize those tutors' capability. When we're talking 4-5 or 4 through 4-8, well, we're only a 4-5 school. So we're really maximizing that and getting kids pulled out when they needed to be. So does that answer?
Yes, it does. And I just have one last question then related to that. Is there information sharing in terms of like the assessment data and the growth information? So is that something, our students their growth in both literacy and math are being assessed several times a year through different instruments. If they participate in this program, we have then another set of data. Is that something like our PLCs are able to use when they're putting together plans?
We don't so much use that data in PLCs. We like to stick to the FAST data for part of it, but it's also really unit data that we're looking at too. So we could do better, I think, in integrating some of the tutors, but it's how to also coordinate that all. What we really do, and if you come to Valley View, we have this huge data wall up in our coaching office. We indicate who's getting what services. So internally, we can track to say, all right, are our efforts working? Are we doing the right thing for students? That's already in there and built in so that when teachers come in, and we have it in our coaching office because we want to be surrounded by the kids that we're serving, you know? So when we're talking PLCs and we're saying, all right, this and that, we're looking up and saying, oh, these are the students that we're talking about. So it's not just a number, it's not just a name, it's a picture in front of you. All of that's encapsulated in that. So Ms. Berg has done some amazing work in there.
Thank you. And I think we had the opportunity to see the data wall when we toured the building, and it's very cool. So thank you for that information.
Actually, my question is kind of off of hers. So do all the students still take the Fast Bridge assessments, even though they're under this organization as well, or this program?
100%, they do. I don't think it's redundant, but when we're talking apples to apples, we want all the students taking the same assessment as we're looking at what's working and what's not working, and how do we plan or adjust. Because if we're not on the same page, even though they might be normed, they're not the same thing.
So have you looked at to see if the growth that this organization is providing data and against our Fast Bridge, are we seeing correlation or are we seeing significant swings?
No, we're seeing a strong correlation. Yeah, so when they're saying and they're doing their assessments, we're seeing that same growth on our Fast Bridge assessments. So it's neat. We're also seeing it in classrooms, so the not official data, we're seeing, oh, these kids are catching on to what we're teaching. I think, and I'm specifically saying for math, as they come in and they do that tier 1, they're getting it. So the little things that needed to be done, they're scaffolding up with Math Core, and so when they're engaging in the classroom, they're engaging at a higher level and also pushing their thinking more.
Thank you.
Mary?
Thank you again for all of the information. I think it's really helpful and fascinating and wonderful. I just want to say that I also want to thank Principal Kuhlman for coming here, and also for being so transparent with this group and this organization, because I think that that's the other piece. I have been in a school, not in our school district, but the school is the host, and not everybody makes the host environment feel welcome to everybody else, and that is also a massive part that can hurt. Just if it's not helpful, if people don't feel welcomed, if they aren't part of the team. And I think it sounds like you being welcoming and thoughtful and including everybody together really just, not only is it fantastic for the adults, honestly, at the end of the day, it really benefits the kids too. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership with that. I think that that's really helpful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you for the information, and thanks to AmeriCorps, to all of you, and to your volunteers, obviously making a difference in our community. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Next, we have Avid. Got Emily Gartner, Jenny Brad, and Darcy Hedin.
All right. Good evening, Chair Mueller, members of the board, Superintendent Stenbeck. Excited to bring you an AVID program update this evening. I'm joined by Jenny Brad, who's our AVID teacher at Columbia Academy, and Darcy Hedin, who is a math and AVID teacher at Columbia Heights High School. Our mission in Columbia Heights Public Schools of creating worlds of opportunity for each and every learner, all belong, all succeed. And again, we think that the AVID program is closely aligned with all of our core values in Columbia Heights, which we'll expound upon a little bit throughout the presentation, and also knowing that our core values are aligned with the Board of Education equity statement. This is an informational presentation to the board with no governance question. All right, so AVID is an acronym, stands for Advancement Via Individual Determination. It started over 40 years ago in one classroom in California, has since expanded to over 7,000 schools throughout the country and actually around the world. And their mission is very closely aligned to our own mission in Columbia Heights Public Schools. Their mission is to close the opportunity gap by preparing all students for college and career readiness and success in a global society. Not sure why society got cut off there. In Columbia Heights Public Schools, we have had the AVID program for a long time, and it has changed and grown and evolved over that time. So we started with one class at the high school back in 2008. Since that time, we've expanded so that AVID is now throughout our district K-12. So at the high school and middle school, it's an elective class that students can apply for. We have 2 sections per grade level at the high school, 9 through 12. At Columbia Academy, we have AVID in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, so 5 sections total. And then at the elementary school, AVID is school-wide, so teachers are implementing strategies throughout the school day. It's not a standalone class. So we have AVID now throughout all of our elementary schools, that we are a fully AVID district. And AVID is funded by the Achievement and Integration Program. So students in AVID have a comprehensive curriculum that's grounded in WICR. AVID is big on acronyms. So WICR is an acronym that stands for Writing, Inquiry, Collaboration, Organization, and Reading. They participate in things like collaborative group tutoring, college campus visits, and career exploration opportunities. And we have seen in Columbia Heights that students who are enrolled in AVID have higher school attendance rates, increased enrollment in rigorous coursework, higher high school graduation rates, and acceptance to and enrollment in post-secondary opportunities. And we'll share more about that shortly. So I'm going to pass it over to Jenny, who is going to share more about AVID at Columbia Academy.
Good evening, Chair Mueller and school board members and Superintendent Senvik. Thanks for having me back. This is my 2nd year in a row getting to give this little presentation about how AVID is going at Columbia Academy, and it's going very well. We had a huge response at the beginning of last school year, or at the end of last school year, for 5th graders, so we ended up combining so that we could take all of those eager 6th graders in. So we have 2 classes of 6, 7 AVID, and that class I've seen the biggest amount of growth in that class in particular, because the 7th graders that were in those sections, their friends were in AVID the previous year as our original group of 6th graders, and they recommended these friends, and so they had already decided that they were AVID students as well, and so they all just took it on, and it's been so wonderful. And then that AVID 7th grade class is it's our shining little glory. I think you got to come and see them in action. They're working really hard, and they are true AVID students, just AVID students through and through. The 7th graders, along with those 6th graders that are in the 6-7 splits, we had 21 of them eligible for the Jack Kent Cooke Foundation Scholarship, which one of our students won last year through his essays that he wrote in AVID. And we did a couple of essay writing workshops. I collaborated really closely with Miss Wendy, because we had a lot of families that were applying that spoke Spanish. And so it was really nice for them to walk through that application process. Kieran came and talked to my classes about what his experience has been like, so it was wonderful for them to hear from somebody from our school that they can see and access. Also, I didn't include this on here because it was very recent. On Friday of last week, our 8th graders got to go to Finance Park, which was an extension of BizTown. It's more the middle school level. They got to pretend that they were adults. They had credit scores. They had to figure out what kind of house they wanted to buy, if they could buy a house. Some of them had children and were really upset about it. Some of them didn't have children and were really upset about it. So it was just really fun, and it aligns so much with AVID, because we want our kids to see themselves in the future. However they want that. We want them to have the opportunities of getting there. So yeah, AVID is going great at Columbia Academy. We are super good now at our focus notes. That was really excellent English right there. We're super good at it. Focus notes are like the backbone of AVID, and the thing that I really stress to them, they just need to be a smart note taker, which doesn't mean writing everything down. And the most important part of it is that we revisit what we write, because we don't just learn something one time. We have to relearn and relearn. So focus notes are something that we hit really hard this year. And then, of course, tutorials are always present in the Columbia Academy AVID classroom. So yeah, we're doing great.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm going to pass it over to Darcy Hedin, who's going to share more about AVID at Columbia Heights High School.
All right. Good evening, Chair Mueller. Good evening, School Board. Good evening, Superintendent Stenvik. Thank you for having me here tonight. Just some updates from the high school. So a group of 20 of us staff members at the high school, along with our school leadership team, got together once a month just to kind of talk AVID strategies, implementation, things like that. Among other things, within these meetings, we split into 3 groups to kind of focus on school-wide goals that we can implement. And our goals that we focused on this year were post-secondary readiness, the writing process, and student organization. So among other things, we made sure that our course catalog was all set for next year so that students can, make it through the secondary part to get to the post-secondary part. And then each 9th grader was also given a binder this year as an organizational tool and dividers to help them keep those binders straightened up and organized. Our students were able to attend college visits to Minnesota State University in Mankato, Dunwoody College, St. Thomas, and Gustavus. Our AVID 11 and 12 students were able to attend the National College Fair in person. Dozens of representatives from across the state and really across the country were there, talking with our students face to face. This year, which was new for our seniors, they had a mentorship program with Ecolab, and I'll talk more about that on another slide. But it was virtual mentorship in small groups, and our junior AVID students as well completed the Best Prep e-mentorship program with Optum Health professionals. So like I mentioned, these are images from some of the college tours that our students were able to take this year. And a couple of images from the college fair. Again, there were booths all over in the Minneapolis Convention Center. We went at the beginning of October. And then this is an image from our juniors, our AVID 11 students, who were able to participate in their mentorship program with Optum Health. So they met with their mentors, they toured the headquarters, and then shared lunch with them. And for us, basically, we got to Ecolab. They said, hello, this is Ecolab. No photos. So there are no pictures. But our AVID 12 students more or less got to do the same. They toured, they met with a few of the mentors who were there, and we got to share lunch together. Our AVID seniors, there are 38 of them this year, and they have applied to an impressive amount of scholarships this year, 265 scholarships. And these 38 AVID seniors, again, through their application, they applied to over $2.5 million in scholarships.
Oh, wow. Wow.
All right, and we would be happy to answer any questions that you have about the AVID program.
Any questions? Julie?
So when the students are mentored, these mentor programs, what is the mentor doing?
So
what is the approach, I guess? I'm sorry.
No, so, and I can speak for the Ecolab mentorship. So they had an agenda for each meeting. There were 3 different virtual meetings. So they were able to set up a Teams meeting, and for the first meeting, it was basically just getting to know you, and then the other 2 meetings were kind of what do you want with your future, just kind of advice for becoming professionals and interviewing and things like that. And I know even one of our group of seniors, they wanted to learn more about finance and investing. So before the mentor gave this presentation, the coordinator, she sent the presentation to me and to Erin Edwardson, and she said, is this okay if we talk about it? We said, absolutely, and it was just like good advice about investing. So they have this agenda or structure to follow as a guideline, but I stress this a lot to them. Make it your own, because this is your future and this is your opportunity. So take advantage of it in a way that makes sense for you.
I can speak a little bit. So Erin Edwardson-Stern is the AVID site coordinator for the high school. So she teaches social studies and AVID and does some additional work as the AVID site coordinator. So she and I had several planning meetings with Ecolab before the mentorship program started. And then they also have some affinity groups for staff of color at Ecolab. So they also wanted to make sure that students were able to see someone who looked like them, right, in the future and be able to imagine themselves in those careers.
So do you match students one-on-one with an Ecolab employee and the student, and then they communicate?
Yes, and every group had 2 people.
Okay.
2 students and a mentor. So,
Other questions? Great, thank you for the presentation.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
What a record for
2.5 million.
scholarship applications. So I remember when we surpassed $1 million in applying for scholarships. This number is just mind-blowing, so congratulations.
So that's not how much they've won, it's just what they applied for.
Correct.
Okay. I'm like, I thought it was amazing if they won $2.5 million.
38 seniors.
National news, but
It would have been awesome.
they can do it. It's just a matter of time, right? We just have to wait for all the announcements to come out.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. for your
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Next, we have Jake Henderson, Activities Director, to talk about the Minnesota State High School League membership.
Chair Mueller, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvik, thank you again for having me this evening. Our mission at Columbia Heights Public Schools is creating worlds of opportunity for each and every learner. All belong and all succeed. And then our topic tonight, the Minnesota State High School League membership, does touch on all of our core values, as well as our mission, quite honestly. Opportunities for students is really what we're talking about when we get into being a member of the Minnesota State High School League. So I will briefly present some information to you tonight on that resolution to continue membership in the Minnesota State High School League, and action will take place on that resolution at a future date, likely the next board meeting. Like I said, just a little bit of information on the High School League. It provides guidance and governance for 24 of the sports and activities that we compete in at the high school level. The Minnesota State High School League provides opportunities for 7th through 12th grade students to participate in education-based activities. Education-based activities do have a goal of winning games and of winning championships, but that isn't the full purpose of what we're doing. So stated in their mission in the Minnesota State High School League is that the purpose is the growth of students in connection to positive, caring adults. So that goal is still there, but it's not the purpose of what we're doing. Our students, and some of them were brought up, some of them were sitting right beside me. We had a head coach sitting beside me as well for part of the evening, but our students, our staff, our community benefit greatly from the activities and the athletics that the Minnesota State High School League provide, and I would recommend that we continue membership in the Minnesota State High School League. Again, as I said, just a little bit of brief information for you on the High School League, and looking for action to be taken on that resolution at a later date. That's my presentation for you, if you have any comments or questions.
And the actual resolution is included in WordBook. You need to look at that. Mary?
So, and I know you've answered this before, but if we did not join this, for whatever reason, what would we not have access to?
It's a lot of what we do here at in the activities department. It's not all of what we do. Our specific middle school activities and sports don't have anything technically to do with the high school league, even though we steal a ton of their guidance and everything because it's good guidance. But the sports that you see up here at the high school, 7th through 12, swimming, football, basketball, soccer, our one-act play, our speech, all of those things that we compete in are Minnesota State High School League activities. And there are small opportunities if we were to compete in some of those things, not all of them, outside of the Minnesota State High School League. But it would be difficult. Or I don't think as beneficial to our students in our community, at least.
Yeah, it sounds like being a part of this is incredibly important to the work of learning how to be a student athlete. So, and without this, we wouldn't be able to participate in those. Is that?
Correct. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to play any of those teams. And really, you're exactly right. Like I said, it is education-based activities, and so it is not. Even though it's similar to, but my son plays for a club soccer team. It is not that same experience necessarily. It is about more than that. Even though I think my son's club soccer team and organization is phenomenal, but it's about more than that, and it's also about connecting not just the things that we do after school, but connecting it to our school. And seeing them as leaders, those two that were up here already, and just the excitement and peace that it can bring to the community is also a positive. And a lot of our teachers coach, or at least have some access to our students afterwards too, and it's just another touching point to create with those students.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment that I really appreciate the connections that you bring to this board with our athletics and activities in like talking to us about how they do connect with the Minnesota State High School League, and then also informing the board and the community about that educational piece and the leadership development components that are part of, you know, our membership in the high school league. I think we have they offer us a real diversity of athletics and activities, and I think the general community doesn't always know how much the high school league encompasses, like the types of activities that are available. So I just wanted to note that so that the community can hear that, anybody who's watching this meeting, but then also just to share my thanks of you kind of coming to the board on a regular basis and making those connections for us. That's really helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Julie?
And I like this, I always play off of what you said, because I think one of the things that I was not aware of was the other activities other than athletics that it's related to. And I think it's important that our community understand that when we're involved in this, it's covering off on a lot of the artistic and speech and things that are not necessarily physical activities, but mental and creative activities. So I appreciate that very much.
Yes, thank you.
Great, so we will probably have this as a resolution on our next June 11th meeting, right? Yes.
All right, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Solar for Schools Grant Program with Director Hennekins and Rich Rigatz.
All right, just give me 1 minute here to pull up this and share the screen. We're going to do the full screen here. Get rid of this menu. Oops. There we go. Full screen. We should see a full screen. Very good. All right. Thank you, Chair Mueller, members of the board, and Superintendent Stenbeck. This presentation this evening is about new solar projects for two of our buildings, Highland Elementary and Valley View Elementary. This installation implementation is very similar to what we've done in the past. It's just accessing a little bit different program in Solars for Schools. And so there's just a few different steps that we want to go through with this, and we'll bring it back to the board at the next meeting and we'll have a resolution to pass. But before we did that, I thought it was good to have Ideal Energies, the company that we're working with, do a little presentation on who they are, what the program is, and what's really going to be implemented at those schools. And so this evening I have Rich Rigatz from Ideal Energies to give that presentation. Any questions you have, he'll definitely be able to answer, and I won't necessarily. He's much more familiar with it, as they've worked with many, many schools and school boards in implementing projects across the state. And maybe more than just Minnesota, I don't know. But so with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Rich and let him go through the presentation, and we'll get questions at the end.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Rich Ragatz from Ideal Energies. I'm a partner. We started our company back in 2010. And since 2010, we've done half of all the commercial on-site solar that's been done in the state of Minnesota behind the meter. And in the school space especially, we've done a lot of projects. We've done 200 on-site projects across the state to date. And in this Solar for Schools program, we've done 114 projects in the first 4 rounds. And this 4th round is what we're talking about with your district, Columbia Heights. So it's an added incentive to make the solar piece that much more economically beneficial for your district. So I'll kind of get into the details. I kind of talked about our company. We're also vertically integrated, so we do have everything in-house to get these projects done, including a structural engineer, master electricians, installation crews, the design piece, and the finance and development. And we also have our own dedicated operations and maintenance department that'll be important too, to make sure the projects are successful. Here's a project just to show you, we're talking about a self-ballasted system that just sits on top of the roof membrane. There's no roof punctures. We've worked with your vendor, Garland, to make sure that the roof sections that we're picking are appropriate for that and beefed up in their eyes to make sure the solar's a safe and long-term solution up there. Here's a list of some sample schools. We actually have done 6 projects with your district over the years, so we've had a nice partnership and look to continue making some additional solar projects work here. Here's the 6 projects, and they're kind of smaller projects. What we've been doing over the years is just leveraging the programs that are out there in the state. So they used to only limit the size to 20 kilowatts AC, and then they changed it to 40 kilowatts AC, and now we can go up to a megawatt. So things kind of keep changing, and as things get better, we work with districts to add on and continue saving with the solar. So we have 2 locations picked out. The first one is Highland Elementary here. You can see these 2 spots that we're looking at. Valley View Elementary also, we have 2 different spots that we're looking at. And not only are we leveraging the Solar for Schools, which gives direct grant money to incentivize doing a project, we also leverage the PV credit tariff, which gives you guys an additional 7.113 cents for every kilowatt hour that's produced from the hours of 1 to 7. And that's basically giving you guys credit for the value you add to Xcel Energy and the grid, where they don't have to go buy that expensive backup energy. The solar helps kind of them regulate that. So this is the program we're talking about, that there's a June 7th deadline to get your final application in, and we're working with Brian and Alex to make sure that that gets completed, assuming we want to move forward here. So here's just a single project, one of the 2 projects that we're talking about, and I'll kind of go left to right here. We're looking at about 11,000 of electrical savings in year 1. We're going to pay you rent revenue to make sure that we can get up there and operate and maintain the system during the payback. So you have gross revenues of 11,000 and change. You guys are going to be paying us $3,542. And you also have to get a rider on your insurance policy. It won't cost you more than $300 annually. So we have total expenses there. So the first year, you're going to save about $7,500 and change. Over the life of this one, we're looking at about $653,000 worth of savings. And then a couple other things. We also include all expenses that you might incur during ownership. One of them is there's a 30-year warranty with the panels. but there's a 12-year warranty with the inverters, and you can buy that warranty up to 25 years, but the inverter price has gone down dramatically, so it's not worth that. But we're showing an inverter replacement event every year 13, year 25, and year 37 that are already factored into these numbers to make sure maybe you will have to replace it in year 13, probably not, but we just want to make sure we're being conservative with our assumptions.
Can I ask what an inverter is, please? Sorry.
I'm sorry?
What's an inverter?
Inverter takes the DC created energy and converts it to AC, so you can use it either on-site or it goes back to the grid. And we put in a bi-directional meter so that if you're sending energy back to the grid, that it keeps track of that and you get the retail benefit of that on your bill, which is important.
Thank you.
Then we kind of rolled this up here to show you what you'd be saving. In year 20, we're looking at $380,000 of savings with these two projects. After the warranty period on the panels, you're looking at $784,000 of electrical savings, and then during the entire life, you're looking at about $1.3 million of electrical savings. We also provide curriculum that's geared towards the 5th and 6th grade science classes and the 11th and 12th grade kind of pathways program. So if kids don't want to go to college, they have some other alternatives to learn about. We have that up to the 3 current learning standards in the state of Minnesota. We've been doing this. This is a requirement of the Solar for Schools program, but we've actually been doing this for 12 years, handing out educational materials. It's one of our passions. Here's a monitoring screen that we provide as part of this, where the kids can get on there and learn about how much CO2 was saved as a result of this, equivalent trees planted, what the production is daily, weekly, monthly, kind of some cool stuff for kids to look at and learn. And then kind of why we've done so many of these, your district, day one would be the fee title owner of the system. There's no upfront cost to the district. Your only obligation is to pay a discount of about 70% of what you would have been paying XL if you didn't do this project. You get free energy after 20 years, and we operate and maintain that system during that 20-year payback. And I mentioned the 30-year panel warranty, and that's basically the program. Next steps, I hope that next meeting you'll approve us to move forward with contracts and do these 2 projects. And we'll get the full grant application in and keep moving forward, hoping we can get these projects built either later on this year or spring, summer of next year. And that's the program. I'm here for questions.
Thank you so much. I have just a couple of questions. You had made a comment that the insurance would be capped at $300 a year, or should be no more than. Why is that? How did we get that number?
Well, based on all of our 200 school projects that we've done to date, we've found that a lot of the districts actually, it doesn't do a whole lot to your insurance portfolio value to add a solar array because they consider it an HVAC system up there basically. So we found that oftentimes districts aren't charged for the rider on the insurance policy, but if you are, it won't cost you more than $300.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, our schools, especially Valley View and Highland, they're aging. Like, sorry to say, they're older. What happens if we were to have to put an addition on, or if we could no longer use those schools before our 30-year warranty was up? What happens then with the solar panels and something like that?
So you're saying you might sell the school, or?
I mean, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying a lot can change in 30 years with buildings that were built in the 60s.
Okay. Well, this is a 20-year payback, so if it happened after 20 years, you have a system that's paid for on your roof that's going to provide value to whoever uses it, where they're going to have a reduction in their energy that they pay for at the site.
right, thank you.
Director Hennikins, when the North Park remodel happened, do I recall correctly that the solar arrays were taken down temporarily for the remodel and then put
Yes,
back on there?
and then put back on, yes.
That's,
Yep. And just to note quick, the roofs at the sections that these are going on are roof sections at Valley View were done last summer. So they're prepped for the solar panels already. And then the Highland roof is going on this summer and they'll be prepped for the solar panels coming on. So again, ensuring that our warranty, we receive that full 40-year warranty on our roof.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
so does this proposal include the education piece as well for students? And does that education piece go into like all pluses and minuses for solar, or is it all the plus of solar? Because I know we think about solar and we think about Minnesota winters and we think about, them covered with snow, and we think about how those things, the solar energy isn't always effective for a Minnesota winter or Minnesota, as these panels have to be replaced, you gotta get rid of them somehow, so they go in the landfill or wherever. So is your education program all-encompassing of the positives and the negatives for solar energy?
Well, I don't know if we really touch on some of those negatives. Some of the negatives you brought up aren't really negatives. There's no hazardous waste with the materials that are made, that make up a solar panel. They're considered electronic waste, so if you did want to get rid of them, you'd bring them to a dump site and you'd pay 50 cents a pound for electronic waste. But actually, in the last couple of years, there's been a number of companies that have popped up that are recycling panels. And actually, they'll pay you anywhere from $5 to $15 a panel to take them off your hands, because even with the panels we're talking about here, after 30 years, there's a production warranty with the manufacturer that if they're not producing 85% of what we told you day one, you have a production warranty claim.
Okay.
So they're still going to be producing a lot of energy after 30 years, and somebody would probably, take them off your hands for free.
Okay, that's good information. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle?
So this is just for heating and cooling?
Electricity,
Oh, okay.
just producing electricity.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Yep.
I thought so, but
Yep.
then we kept touching on the AC part, and so I was like, so I didn't know if the energy was just coming in. and then-
AC/DC is the
Yeah.
electrical current.
Yes, correct.
Correct.
Jessica?
Just a point of information about this item. So this is an informational agenda item, correct? So you
Yes.
mentioned the June 7th application date, but this isn't coming back to the board for approval, correct?
So, sorry, this mic's a little weird. So we have to come to the board for a resolution for an action item to enter into the contract with Ideal Energies. But that doesn't stop us from hitting the application in prior to that, because we need to make sure we get our application in order for us to be eligible for the Solar for Schools program. Any number of things could happen in between there with the application and stuff, but, we don't foresee any of those issues happening. We could put the application in and they could say no, but we've already been approved in preliminary approval for our application. Is there 3 steps in the application process or just 2?
Just 2.
Just 2.
Yep.
So there was multiple steps, so you had to submit by a certain date in order to be eligible for the full application, and then once the full applications are in, but they've already given tentative awards of what each school is eligible for based on your previous application.
Okay, so at the point that we have official approval after we've applied, then that would come back to the board for approval of the contract itself.
The June 11th will come back
Okay.
for the approval, and so, but the application just happens to be due before then, but you're not approving the application, you're approving
The contract.
the contract working with Ideal Energies.
And we'll have a copy of that at that time?
Yes.
For approval. Okay, thank you very much for that. And then I did just have one question about the program itself, and that's just about maintenance after year 20. So is that something, if it is a 40-year life, so we're thinking that at least between years 20 and 40, we're going to be responsible for the maintenance then as a district. Is that correct? So then is that something we're building into our long-term planning for facilities maintenance?
Yeah, long-term.
Very long-term.
Very
Years from
long-term.
now.
I mean, we already engaged with Ideal Energies, and they do, provide that service, so it'll be just a, additional contract with them to maintain and support going forward, which again, we have solar panels in various stages, and we have some of the earliest ones that are going to be hitting their mark of, where we're going to be taking the full benefit of them. So, there's some good news, that we had some that were installed earlier that, we're getting there on. Because it seems like 15 years or 20 years in this case is a long time down the road. But it's not that we're not receiving any benefit immediately. We're receiving benefit immediately. We just don't feel the full benefit impact until we get past that 20-year mark.
Thank you.
I've got two questions. The first is for the figures that you gave us and for the savings and kind of that dollar amount, is that based on just these two new additional solar arrays, the one on Highland and the one on Valley View, or is that for all of the solar that we already have in addition to these?
That's for the two new ones that we're talking about. And we go actuarial, so we're taking your actual rate plan, which is your general service rate plan, and using all the numbers associated with that to determine what you're going to be saving.
And the next question is probably for Director Hennekins, but circling back to the insurance piece. So it says in the presentation that we own this equipment day one. Does that mean that this falls under our insurance for, like, if there's a massive hailstorm and all of the panels are damaged, then that's a hail claim on our insurance?
Yes.
And so considering what's happening with wind hail deductibles and the expense of that, is there an obligation to make those repairs or would we have to buy out at that point if, let's say in 5 years, there's a hail or windstorm that, trashes the solar panels that we have this, 20-year payback on, and it's so cost prohibitive in terms of what the wind hail deductible is on our insurance that we can't pay for that, that deductible, would we then have to buy out the remaining part of the contract?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe Rich can talk to the durability of the panels in this conversation, but it is an active conversation with insurance because our insurance renewal is coming up, or we're heading into that renewal time. Our property liability insurance isn't fiscal year renewal, it's October 1. And so we have had the conversations as we've moved along with solar, with our property liability. So this will just be a new conversation in the renewal process this year and what that looks and feels like. And I don't know if you can speak to kind of the durability of what we're putting up there.
Yeah, so the panels are engineered for 52-mile-an-hour winds and 1.25 inches of hail. Obviously, as climate change continues, there's more and more intense events that are bigger than 1.25 inches of hail, and we had one of those actually last summer, August 11th of 2023. Well aware of that one. And so if your panels were damaged, that would be a warranty claim, and we just replace the panels and still have the same production and deal in place, I guess. But what we found is you got to be very careful with how you pick your panels because you can pick panels that have a thinner glass and they're more susceptible to hail. So if you're in an area where hail is a big item that happens, then we need to make sure that the panels that we're using are going to be adequate for that, and that's what we're going to be doing.
So you would consider hail to be a warranty?
Yes.
Yeah, and it literally, it was that August storm that was in my brain as, areas who normally don't get 2-inch hail got 2-inch hail.
Oh, yeah.
So that was something that was considering for that. Okay. Thank you. Other questions? All right, we will plan to have you back, Director Hennekins, June 11th.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Coming. We will welcome back Director Tuckrell and Emily Gartner for the grade 3 through 5 literacy curriculum.
Hides behind there every time. Like, can you just make it bigger? There we go. Should have been smart and sat over there. Good evening, Chair Mueller, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvick. Our coordinator, Emily Gartner, and I are here tonight to share information about our grade 3 through 5 literacy curriculum review cycle. Our mission in Columbia Heights of creating worlds of opportunity for each and every learner, all belong, all succeed. And once again, we have all of them. But when we think about resources in front of our students, we really do want to encompass all of our core values within our instruction and the materials. And our Columbia Heights core values are aligned to the Columbia Heights Board of Education Equity Statement. We're here tonight to share an informational presentation to the board, and I'll be returning on June 11th, seeking approval of the adoption of Wit and Wisdom for grades 3 through 5, starting fall of 2024. We started the curriculum cycle for grades 3 through 5 prior to the READ Act, but once we knew the READ Act was coming its way, we waited, knowing we want to align and comply with the Department of Education requirements. So the READ Act is in a couple different phases. READ Act 1.0 came last year, and READ Act 2.0 just came this past week. We're still awaiting guidance from the Department of Education. We were on a couple webinars last week, so that guidance from the Department of Education needs to come before we make any changes or compliance or added pieces to this. So the READ Act, Minnesota Reading to Ensure Academic Development, was passed in May 2023, and the goal is to ensure that every student is at or above grade level beginning in kindergarten. And the READ Act replaces what was Read Well by 3rd grade previous to this, and it outlines requirements and guidance to districts around screening, professional development, and curricular resources. The READ Act is divided into different areas. The first one is funding, and this area is one impacted by READ Act 2.0. The original version discussed reimbursement for curricular resources, and we just learned last week that it actually is coming through a literacy aid based upon enrollment. So last year, they mentioned that districts could apply for reimbursement when they purchase the materials, and now they've changed it. So based upon Columbia Heights enrollment, we will receive a literacy aid. Screening, the screening requirements for the READ Act require for certain grade levels and students below grade level to be screened 3 times a year. And our practices in Columbia Heights exceed that. We currently have kindergarten through 10th grade taking the FastBridge screener in literacy 3 times a year. Professional development requirements by the READ Act, districts will be required to provide a Minnesota Department of Education, MDE approved training to staff in different phases. So the first phase will be starting next school year with our K through 5 teachers, including EL, administration, and special ed, and K-12 actually special ed. So we're excited that we'll be starting Core Online Language and Literacy Academy, and our educators in early childhood will be taking letters for early childhood. In curriculum, we'll be discussing this evening, they provided a list of approved curricular resources for K through 5 based upon many different criteria and committees. They worked with Carrie from the University of Minnesota to support that. So the approved curricula from MDE was divided into different areas, foundational and knowledge building. Foundational is really those building blocks, the phonics, the phonemic awareness, the pieces there. The knowledge building is a comprehension. When we think about the vocabulary, the background knowledge, and districts need to have either one of each or one that encompasses both, a comprehensive. So they provided this list. And there's 1 comprehensive curriculum approved, 3 foundational, and 1 knowledge building. And currently, we have functional phonics happening in our building, so we're excited to see that on the list. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Coordinator Gartner.
All right, good evening again, Chair Mueller, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvick. So our curriculum development process very generally is on this screen, and then we'll walk you through what the process was specifically for Wit and Wisdom. But in any curriculum development cycle, we're starting with teachers, thinking about what are their current needs, what do they have that's working, where are they seeing as maybe some gap areas that need to be filled with curricular resources. From there, we move to leadership teams, principals, and the teaching and learning team, the larger administrative team, the World's Best Workforce team, the superintendent, and then finally to all of you at the school board for final approval. So for 3-5 literacy curriculum, as Director Tuckrell mentioned, we started the process before the READ Act, so we knew that our 3-5 literacy curriculum needed to be updated. So in spring of 2022, we started to meet with representatives from potential curricular programs. Knew at that point, after starting that process, that the READ Act was coming, and so put that on hold until we knew more information from the READ Act. Once we had the information from the READ Act, we then started the process again. So fall of 2023, we gathered input from our academic leadership team to create selection criteria for Columbia Heights Public Schools based on the needs that they were seeing in their classrooms. A group of us from district staff and coaches met with representatives from potential programs to determine what we thought we were narrowing down to 2 to 3 programs that met our criteria. In January then, MDE released its list with 2 currently approved options. So either EL Open Up is the comprehensive option or Wit and Wisdom as the knowledge building option to be paired with one of those foundational skills curricula. In February, we had teachers and staff who met with representatives from both of these programs and reviewed the materials and provided their input. In March, our elementary coaches taught a series of lessons from each program at each grade level, 3, 4, and 5, and provided their input. In April, we had an opportunity for community input, and our World's Best Workforce reviewed our recommendation, and then that brings us to May with making our recommendation to the school board. So some of the feedback that we received from that teacher review on Wit and Wisdom was that the student books were very high interest. So they're all trade books. They're books that you might check out at the library or see at a bookstore, so not a textbook. And that those are really interesting for students. The teacher resources were really clearly organized. They felt that the lesson plans were well developed and easy to follow. They had a consistent structure. The lessons they felt were rigorous, that there was reading, writing, listening, and speaking throughout. That Wit and Wisdom connects well with AVID strategies, bringing it back to our AVID program update. And we did also receive feedback that supplemental materials will be needed to support cultural relevance in some modules, and this was evident in both programs that were reviewed. Some other considerations. One, this is the only currently approved knowledge building curriculum. It pairs well with functional phonics and morphology with no needed modification. So Wit and Wisdom as a standalone knowledge building curriculum, able to adopt and still keep functional phonics in place as we are currently implementing it with success. Wit and Wisdom incorporates science and social studies topics, has a more recent copyright date. It is currently being utilized and or being adopted by a number of districts in Minnesota. And then cost was also a consideration.
As we look at the cost and the budget piece, Wit and Wisdom, the total cost is there for the initial year. And then we know moving forward that there would be a cost for the consumable piece. So the recurring cost is listed there as well. We did survey our teachers, and knowing that we want to ensure we fit into the budget, what are those priority areas? And we focused in on the print materials. Our teachers agreed. We'd like to have the teacher piece online so we're able to plan from home, look at it from wherever we need to, but we want teacher materials that are hands-on. So there's books in front of our students. So the cost that is listed here does fit within our budgets. And with the current allocation for the literacy aid, it would fit within that as well. So our next steps, if approved, June 11th, would be to purchase the materials using that aid money to work with Director Hennekins and his team on using the aid for that. Is a professional development around the curriculum, and we try to support our staff with having a couple options for that. So they'll have the option in the summer or during the Welcome Back Week to learn about it and work with us on that. As mentioned, work with the American Indian Specialists and the Equity Leadership Team to review the curricular materials and select supplemental materials as needed. And some of the reason for that is to ensure our students see themselves. Every district is different in the country, and you want our students to see themselves, and also to think about our Minnesota standards are different than the national standards. We have a lot of American Indian throughout our English standards, and we want to ensure that we're meeting those standards too. Work with our instructional coaches and principals to support standards alignment and implementation. So our staff are ready to go in the fall with all the pieces they need, their scope and sequence, what they're teaching the first week, the assessments that are lined up, and then to share the new materials with our families and community at our back to school events, to have it open so people can see again what we're teaching. And with that, we'll be back June 11th, seeking approval of the adoption of Wit and Wisdom for grades 3 through 5, starting this fall.
Before we get into questions, just a comment for those who may be watching us online. This was also presented to us at our work session last week. So kind of a very robust conversation, and I thank you both for attending that and sharing all of that information. So I know we kind of, a little bit of abbreviated, but still all of the details here today after probably about a little over an hour discussion we had last week as well. So, questions? Julie?
So could you describe the rigor that is gone through to review curriculum? Because I know we have the world's best workforce, and that includes a bunch of different groups of people. Could you explain who those people are, what groups, and kind of the process that goes through? And then also, where can our community find this curriculum to review themselves?
Great questions. The curriculum for this one had to go through the Department of Education and the University of Minnesota. So this one's a little different than most, as we had a process from their side as well, coming in, sharing what was approved. Within the district, we really try to open it up. We want as much input as we can from our community, from our staff, from our students, on the pieces that we're providing. And so we do bring it to an open opportunity. We had that in April, where we put it out through the communications department to invite anyone in who would like to provide input. We also had our staff have opportunities to come in and share. And then the World's Best Workforce is it's a committee of staff, community members, families, students. We had a couple students join in the past who help support some of these decisions as well. They really look at this before we bring it to the school board to provide their input. They look at the budgets, they look at the other materials that we're looking at. So they had that opportunity to do that too. And then we'll once again have it at the back to school nights. We'll also list it on our website, where we list our other curricular resources with links, so the community has an opportunity to look at it there too.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the updates even since last week as things continue to change. So I'm wondering, you had mentioned that the anticipated literary incentive aid that we would receive is in line with the sort of the first year cost of the program. What are we anticipating? I mean, I recognize it could change again tomorrow, but what are we anticipating based on our enrollment that we would receive for literacy aid?
The current number was about 120,000 based upon our enrollment. And as you mentioned, things could change. We are waiting on guidance. MDE did indicate that we need to wait on the guidance to ensure we're complying with that.
Great, and then one more thing. We did have some substantial discussion about this at the work session, and there was a lot to kind of wade through and understand about how potential adoption of this curriculum aligns with the various pieces that are coming out of the READ Act and READ Act 2.0 and how this might all fit together. I do think there are some really strong pieces around this curriculum that help make it work really well for us. I really appreciate hearing how it worked for the teachers sort of in their trial run. I'm also happy that this curriculum was already part of what we were considering as a district prior to MDE releasing, their list. One thing we did have some discussion about at the work session, are some reservations around the cultural relevance of this curriculum, which you note in the presentation as well, that if adopted, we're going to need to look at, how we might supplement this to be more culturally relevant for our students, and maybe to meet changing standards even going forward. So I think one thing that I didn't know until our work session was that even though MDE has said, this is the list, that if there are changes made to that curriculum by the publishers, they then need to go through the MDE review process again. And I know that's something that's outside of, our control and making a decision whether or not to adopt this, but I think it's important. That was a really troubling piece to hear, in the sense that, of course, we want changes going through some sort of review, but I think that if it unrolls in a way that's that rigid, it's actually going to deter the publishers from improving on their curriculum, in thinking about how they do ensure that the curriculum is more culturally relevant to all of our students, and ensuring that they are able to evolve the curriculum to meet changing standards for the state. So I think that that is something that I have some general reservations about. I am supportive, knowing how carefully our teaching and learning team, that you're all looking at this, and the ways in which you're working with all of our leadership across our district in our buildings to ensure that that we are going to be supplementing this curriculum in ways that are not only culturally relevant, but are also thinking about how we avoid any cultural harm that might be present in any of the sort of out-of-the-box curriculum. So I know that there has been conversation nationally about this curriculum around I shouldn't say lack of cultural relevance, but I guess the ways in which it could be strengthened. And thinking that, especially in a district like ours, where we have so many different cultures represented, that it's important that that representation is part of all of our curriculum, including our youngest learners in literacy. And so that is a reservation that I have when you look at the curriculum. I think what I read is that only 22% of the materials are written by people of color, that only 9.2% of the materials represent or Black voices, that there have been Indigenous groups that have expressed concerns about how Indigenous folks are represented. And so I just wanted to note that, because we don't have a lot of choices. And that's why I wanted to preface this by saying I think that there are some really strong things in this curriculum that make it right for us. But I did want to note that that is a concern, and something that I know that if approved, that your team and folks across our district will be working really hard to improve. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We definitely will. There has not been one resource or curriculum that we've seen that's fit our district perfect. So throughout the years, we really have been intentional in supporting our students that way. Thank you.
I have a question with regards to I guess it's going to be literacy aid instead of applying for a grant that we may or may not get. It sounds like we're going to be getting a bit more than the initial outlay. Are we going to, how can that extra aid be utilized for the district? Can we really expand on a lot more of these supplemental materials or staff? I mean, what can we use it for?
Great question. We're awaiting the guidance on that, but from what we've read so far, we should be able to cover some of our foundational phonics and morphology. We'll be able to cover some of the costs of that as well. So some of the pieces we have in place that are aligned to the READ Act already, we'll be able to support with that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
We'll have you back for your third meeting in a row to talk about curriculum on June 11th. Thank you. And I do appreciate your time, both at the work session here today. Curriculum's important, so thank you for taking the time for these meetings.
Thank you.
And Director Tuckrell gets to stick around as we talk about the federal title grants.
Now I have to find it on here. It's missing. I might get an award for doing 4 in a row soon, right?
You and Director Hennekins, right?
He beats me every time. He's come to more, yes. Good evening, Chair Mueller, members of the board, Superintendent Stenvick. This is an annual item that comes to the board for informational and approval with our federal title grants for Title I, II, III, 3A, and 4. Our mission in Columbia Heights Public Schools of creating worlds of opportunity for each and every learner, all belong, all succeed. And as we think about the funds that we have here, we focus in on the core values of excellence, collaboration, integrity, innovation, and our core values are aligned with the Columbia Heights Board of Education Equity Statement. I will be returning on June 11th for approval of this one as well, approval of the preliminary federal Title I or Title grant funding for the 24-25 school year. Title I, the purpose of Title I is to ensure that all children have a fair and equal and an opportunity to obtain a high quality education and to reach the state academic achievement standards. So the key activities for Title I are determined in the summer. We have a meeting, each school has a meeting, and they invite in families, they invite in students, they invite staff and community members to support with looking at what are our goals for the school. And Title I really does support on the student or the school goals. So goals that the school determines, they have activities that go along with it, and Title I supports that. So some activities that Title I has supported in the past that I'm sure will move into this year as well are supplemental materials, instructional coaching, leadership support, family engagement is a big one in Title I. And we've seen a lot of that happen this school year. We've really depleted our Title I funds, which is amazing and exciting with all the different activities that have been happening that I heard even this evening. Supports for students who are experiencing homelessness or in foster care. And we really focus in on supplies. And these can be general supplies that are needed for our students. And we are required to provide our non-publics the opportunity to join in many of these titles as well. So we have Immaculate Conception and Little Voyagers, where I meet with both of them in the summer and offer up both of the titles, whatever we have and what their allocation would be. And if they're interested in partaking in it, then we have a meeting and discuss what their activities would be for their part of the funding. So we receive an allocation. Part of that allocation will go to them if they choose to do that. If not, then it, depending on if one of them or two of them, it either stays with a non-public or comes back. So there's a lot of compliance around that piece. So our projection for Title I for FY25 comes in the first preliminary allocation, which comes in May. Once every district has turned in their applications, and this year they changed it a little, our applications are due by June 30th, which is the first time ever since I've been here, right, that it's been that early. But once the districts turn in their applications and any money that is not taken or accounted for, they redistribute to the districts. So you'll notice on the right in FY24, our initial allocation is our preliminary allocation and our final allocation. So that final allocation usually comes in the fall or the winter and provides us with some additional funding in most of our titles. So our preliminary allocation is along with our anticipated carryover. So our carryover for Title I, we are allowed to carry over up to 15% of our funds from the previous years into the next year. A lot of this funding is focused in on staffing. We really value the importance of having staff in front of our students to support the learning. We know that's where the learning happens. So most of the funding is focused in on that. At the bottom is the non-public estimate. This changes depending on the amount they carry over as well as what we have. And then there's Title II, which focuses in on professional development for all staff. So teachers, administration, educational professionals, everyone's included in this one. And this is also part of the key activities determined in the summer. So depending on the school goal, we look at what professional development is needed, and Title II can support with that. Some activities that we've funded in the past include literacy and math coaching, mentorship, professional development series, many of the things you heard about this evening, about PLCs, literacy and AVID can be funded through here, and then the non-public mandatory support. And our projection for FY25 is a little lower. This is the only title area where our projection is lower. And it's not anything that we've done. It's usually that the state received a smaller amount in Title II. So depending on how the state economics are doing in comparison to other states determines our allocation as a state and then divided up by district. So probably accounts for why we went down a little there. And then our carryover from the previous year. And here, once again, the majority is focusing in on staff. We know the importance of coaching and support right on the spot for our teachers and how that can impact student achievement. Title III supports our multilingual learners and supporting them with English language proficiency and meeting the academic standards. And our key activities for that one have included staff development. A part of our liaisons, we do a lot of braiding of funding, which means part of their salary or part of the funds might come out of one fund and another. So part of the funds to support our liaisons in our school come from here, as well as a non-public mandatory support. Our funds did go up in this area, and that does account for our increase in multilingual learners. It is always a year behind, as Superintendent Stenvick reminds us, that the funding doesn't keep up with the increase in our multilingual learners. But it did increase in comparison to FY24. And once again, the majority is in salaries and benefits, but there is some room in there for materials as well as family involvement to support the activities that are happening. In the last couple of years, we've been fortunate to qualify for supplemental resources, and this is to support school districts to provide quality education to eligible immigrant students. And they really have that defined on what counts as that, and they look at the increase from the previous year to determine if you're eligible for it. Many districts do not get this funding 2 years in a row. We did receive it 2 years in a row, but we're not guaranteed to get it again because it's an increase every year. So the key activities are divided into 4 categories: family engagement, tutoring, resources, and basic instruction services to support our new families and students to the district. We have not received our FY25 allocation, as that one usually comes in November, December. It doesn't come right away. So when we look back at FY24, our FY24 allocation is there, which was a little less than our FY23. So we're hoping we're able to get these funds again. This has supported a lot of activities in Columbia Heights, including REACH, that we've been able to support, our family involvement, our family education series that's provided, and supports a lot of resources. So hopefully we get this one again this year, but it's really dependent upon the increase. And the last title is Title IV. And Title IV is divided into a couple categories. It's focusing in on the well-rounded education, activities to support safe and healthy students, and technology to improve academic and digital literacy of all students. And these activities are also included in the school plans. So some activities that have been included accelerated learning, STEM subjects, physical education and health education, social emotional learning, and then looking at professional learning tools and supporting our staff with using technology. And this was a little smaller than the other two, but this was a surprise to see an increase in this one. So this was exciting, as this will support a lot of the things that are happening in Columbia Heights when we look at STEM and all the different areas that were listed. So with that, I'll be back on June 11th seeking approval of the preliminary federal title grant funding for the 24-25 school year.
Just one quick question. So when you come back on the 11th, would we be approving everything except for Title IIIA?
Correct. Title IIIA does not, thank you for the question. Title IIIA does not need the approval in the same way. We provide the information just so that it's all included, but the other titles do prior to the June 30th deadline. Thank you.
What happens to the other funds that don't roll over? So we're only taking 15% like carryover, if there's that much left. Where does that money go?
If a district does not spend down their money to the amount they need to, it goes back to the state and they go back to the government. We do not do that here. We ensure we work with Director Hennekins. We're happy he's upstairs as well. We're back and forth all the time, and he and his team help support us with monitoring throughout the year. There's a lot of support that our students receive from it, our staff receive from it, so we want to ensure we're using as much as we can.
Awesome. Also, so we have to have the non-public, right? Are they able to use funds from more than one school district? I don't know if you know that. Okay.
No, it's only where good question, it's where they are located. So Immaculate Conception, and they give us a list. So the Department of Education will give you the list of the ones to consult with. So Immaculate Conception and Little Voyagers has the opportunity to choose to join in on the programs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tuckrell. The amount of behind-the-scenes work that goes into compliance with all of these federal funds is enormous. So I want to recognize that in not only the compliance in terms of the reporting, but also all of the collaborating with non-publics, families, students, all of our professionals within the district. So it's just astounding, and we truly could not float without this funds. 15 years ago, we funded some staff and then got to fund, I always said stuff, right? And over the years, as budgets tightened, we had to, Director Tucker and I used to say, we have to have less stuff so we can have staff, utilizing these supplemental funds. So I just a really big shout out to you and the team.
Thank you.
See you at our next meeting.
Thank you.
We will bring back to the table Director Hennekens for the Northeast Metro 916 long-term facility maintenance.
Thank you, Chair Mueller, members of the board, and Superintendent Stenbeck. The first item here is District 916 Long-Term Facility Maintenance Plan. This was presented to the school board at the previous school board meeting, and this evening we're seeking approval as presented at the previous meeting of the 916 Long-Term Facility Maintenance Plan. Again, 916 is authorized by the state to receive these dollars through its member districts.
Thank you. As I was looking for the resolution, because it's way too small on my computer screen. So this is a resolution, so I will read the resolution. And then we will let's see. Resolution approving Northeast Metro 916 intermediate school districts long-term facilities maintenance program budget and authorizing the inclusion of a proportionate share of those projects in the district's application for fiscal year FY 2026 long-term facility maintenance revenue. Be it resolved by the School Board of School District Number 13, State of Minnesota as follows. 1, School Board of Northeast Metro 916 Intermediate School District has approved a long-term facilities maintenance program budget for its facilities for the 2025-2026 school year, pay 2025 levy in the amount of $467,100, of which School District Number 13's proportionate share is $16,474 for pay-as-you-go projects. The various components of this program budget are attached hereto and are incorporated herein by reference. Said budget is hereby approved. Minnesota Statute Section 123B.595, Subdivision 3, provides that if an intermediate school district's long-term facilities maintenance budget is approved by the school boards of each of the intermediate school district members, each member district may include its proportionate share of the cost of the intermediate school district program in its long-term facilities maintenance revenue application. The proportionate share of the costs of the intermediate school district's long-term facilities maintenance program for each member school district is to be included in its application shall be determined by utilizing a blended rate of where 25% of the rate is determined by multiplying the total cost of the intermediate school district long-term facilities maintenance times the ratio of the member school district's net tax capacity to the total net tax capacity of the intermediate school district, and 75% of the rate is determined by multiplying the total cost of the intermediate school district long-term facilities maintenance times the ratio of ADM utilization by the district to the total ADM utilization. The inclusion of this proportionate share in the district's long-term facilities maintenance revenue application for fiscal year 2026 is hereby approved, subject to the approval of the Commissioner of Education. Upon receipt of the proportionate share of the long-term facilities maintenance revenue attributable to the intermediate school district program, the district shall promptly pay to the intermediate school district the new applicable aid and levy proceeds. Thank you for that, Director Henning.
You're welcome.
You're all entertained. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Julie, and a second.
Second.
Second by Mary. Any discussion?
Holy run-on sentence. In 3, like, that's a lot.
I may not have stopped at all at the periods. Any other discussion? I know this was presented to us at the last meeting. So, Laura?
Just for public clarity, 916 is a collaboration that we have been fortunate to be a part of. Portions of those schools are actually, we've actually invested in them, and then they also do not have taxing authority to be able to access these funds.
As this is a roll call vote, I did a motion in a second, right? Yes. Okay. As a roll call vote, Michelle, for the resolution, Michelle, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Granlund,
Aye.
Palmer,
Aye.
Maderas,
Aye.
Poole,
Aye.
Petway, aye, Mueller.
Aye. Resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm so excited that the next action item is not a resolution. Dr. Hennekins is going to stay with us for our District 13's long-term facilities maintenance plan.
Yes, thank you, Chair Mueller, members of the board, and Superintendent Stenvick. The next item here is the school district's long-term facility maintenance plan. Each year, by the end of June, we're required to submit and get approval for to access the long-term facility maintenance dollars to the state. So this evening, as mentioned, I presented this at the previous school board meeting in detail, and this evening I'm seeking the board's approval for our 10-year long-term facility maintenance plan as presented.
Can I get a motion to approve the long-term facilities maintenance plan as presented?
So moved.
Laura, and a second.
Second.
Second by Julie. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Peter Henderson. Next, Superintendent Stenvick, we will discuss building capacity.
Thank you, Chair Mueller, members of the board. We've had multiple discussions at the board table regarding building capacity this school year. We monitor enrollment carefully every week. So last week I was able to connect with Principal Janke from Highland, Principal Kuhlman from Valley View, and Director Godfrey, who, along with Principal Wynn, who oversee the Anchor program, which is technically a school within a school that provides therapeutic full-day school to students who qualify. Looking at those programs and then historical trends, typically Highland gains students over the summer, where oftentimes trend at other schools, we lose students over the summer. That coupled with the diligent work of school staff calling families where we've received enrollment packets to double check that we've received your packet. Did you move here, or are you intending to enroll? This is for open enrollment. Are you continuing to intend to enroll? The recommendation this evening and seeking approval for the beginning of this 2024-25 school year, that Highlands grades 3, Highland Kindergarten, and the Anchor program grades 9 through 12 be closed to open enrollment, given our current enrollment that we have received.
Can I please get a motion to approve the closure of Highland Elementary grades kindergarten and third grade, along with grades 9 through 12 Anchor program to open enrollment for the start of the 2024-2025 school year?
So moved.
Laura, and a second.
Second.
Second by Jessica. Any discussion? Jessica?
Just, I guess, a point of clarification for anyone who might be watching and looking at enrollment in our district for next year. This, if approved, these would be the only grades in the district that would be closed to open enrollment at this time for next year. So people that were enrolling in the fall, we have closed open enrollment other places in the district this year, but those will be open again for fall enrollment unless we have another another motion here at the table.
That's correct.
That was the most roundabout way I could have asked that question, but
That's absolutely correct. We do continue to monitor the enrollment every week, and so I did appreciate, again, the board's nimbleness and flexibility in responding to our enrollment. We want to make sure that we're, we aim for our specific class sizes, and we want to be able to maintain that, so.
I think another important point is to note that, for example, with third grade at Highland, if approved, close to open enrollment, if there's a current Highland second grader who is an open enrolled family, they can come for third grade. This is for new
New
open
open
enrolled students. So if you're currently a student in the district,
You're
you
in.
can continue to stay in the district. Mary?
Thank you for that clarification. I also wanted to say, this is obviously if we have somebody who lives in the boundaries of our district and would be attending grade 3 at Highland or kindergarten or the anchor program, because they already live here, they would still be able to come. This is only for open enrollment.
Correct.
Non-resident students. I think the other piece is, again, I think that this speaks volumes to the fact that our district is doing a lot of really great things and working really hard to support our students. Full stop, no matter where they live, they are our students. And I know that even this year, when we have closed enrollment for this school year to open enrollment, that there have been families that have moved to Columbia Heights so they can enroll their students here. And I think that it speaks volumes for the work that the staff are doing to support our students and families. And frankly, I am absolutely thrilled to see this. And I know we're going to continue to work, and we'll see what happens for this next school year. So thank you so much.
I just wanted to make a comment as well. We also, as Superintendent Stenbeck has mentioned, is that we're careful about the size of our classrooms. And I wanted to bring that to the public's attention. It is very clear that we are trying very hard to keep our class sizes to a reasonable level so that all students are learning. And so I want to thank you for that. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. There's one mechanism by which the board can approve a closing to open enrollment, and that's based on capacity. And so we look at grade level capacity and overall building capacity. And when we meet that threshold, given the fact that we have to keep slots open for incoming resident students, that's when I'm able to bring this request to the board.
Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have board topics. Does anybody have any board topics? Julie?
Okay, so I attended the MSBA classes for Phase 4, and we talked about a policy, adding a policy relating to potentially our library and having a library policy. How do I get that, in an agenda and have that discussion? I'd like to understand, because I think it's really important to have a library policy, especially with all of the controversial things that are going on throughout the state relating to books in the library. And so I think it might be important that we get a jump on it and decide what's important.
Yeah, that's something that you can let me know, and then we can add that to the agenda for the subcommittee on policy.
Okay.
So it would start there, and then go to the full board afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board topics? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm very excited for this week. On Thursday, we're having the middle school choir is coming, and they're participating. Again, just to sort of call back to the building capacity and how full we are, it has to be split into 2 separate times because there are so many students and families here. And so I'm really looking forward to that. The kiddos have been really practicing quite a bit. So hopefully we'll see lots of family and other board members attend as well. So that's this Thursday at, I believe it's at 6:15 is the first one. 7 is the second. Although Member Medeiros might correct me if I'm wrong. No, no idea.
Is that at Columbia Academy?
No, it's here at the PAC.
Okay, so I would just say there's a lot going on Thursday.
Yes.
There's also the senior end of the year celebration that's being put on by a parent group that's happening at Ramsdale Park on Thursday from 3 to 6. So just, if you're coming for the concert, just expect that.
So 49th is going to be busy for the next 2 Thursdays.
Exactly,
Okay.
yes.
Well,
Thank
North
you.
Park has a concert too on the 30th, so. I mean, it's not near 49th. So if you want to bring, no, it's just.
Thank goodness for that. There's many
They like to
reasons to
book
be
things on
thankful for that.
Thursdays.
Yes. I've got a couple of items. One is just a reminder, Thursday, the 6th is graduation. We're not meeting prior to that. So board members, if you're attending graduation, you've been told what time to be here, 6:30, I believe, 6:15?
Senior update.
Okay, senior update. To be here for graduation, Member Poole, we will miss you. We know that you could not be here for business, so we wish you luck on what you have to do. We know that you'll be with us in spirit.
For sure.
So just a reminder, and again, to our public that may be watching, 49th is going to be super busy on Thursday the 6th, probably starting around 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Gates open at 6 p.m. for a 7 o'clock graduation. Next, Superintendent Simic mentioned this, but just a reminder that the district powwow is this Friday, the 31st, starting at 6 p.m. Rain or shine, 5 p.m.? 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Boy, I
5 to
can't do
10.
times today. 5 p.m., rain or shine, hopefully shine out on the football field, otherwise rain in the high school gym. And that's a great opportunity as our senior students are recognized and there's a ceremony for receiving the Eagle Feather. If you haven't gone, I highly encourage you to go. Last item I have is mentioned in our update that our August meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, August 13th, falls on the primary day, so we cannot hold our meeting. We can't vote on anything now, just looking for general consensus. Is any concerns with moving the August meeting, to Wednesday, August the 14th?
Should be fine.
Yeah.
So look for that in your updates as well. Any others? That's for you, Mary.
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:26.